Hello everybody.
Hey guys, today's video is on how to do a toe-side stand-up 180. It's the foundation for all the stand-up toe-side checks you're going to do, so it's pretty key to learn. So if you want to learn it, check out the video. First things first, what is a toe-side 180 degree stand-up slide, also known as a backside slide? It's the slide where you slide the board 180 degrees with your back facing down the hill or your shoulders facing up the hill, and yeah, you end up in switch and you roll away. So what should you know before trying this slide? So first, you should know how to carve and how to slow down. Now you can slow down by either foot braking or doing a Coleman, push-up or pendulum slide. Now I've already made guides for all of this and I've linked them in my skill progression guide, so I'm going to link that in the description and you can check that out. You should also know how to set up carve. Setup carving is going to be key for getting the board to break traction in a smooth and controlled way, so yeah. What gear is going to be appropriate to help you learn this slide? So at minimum, you should have a helmet and slide gloves. I highly recommend getting knee pads, elbow pads and hip pads as well. You're going to be falling quite a bit, so yeah, having some protective gear is going to allow you to get back up and keep skating. I also recommend you get some wheels that are appropriate for free riding. These are going to make your sliding attempts a lot more successful. You can check out my downhill skateboarding guide and I talk a little bit about which wheels are more appropriate for free riding, and I've linked it here. So like with the heel side stand-up 180 slide, there are actually two ways to learn this slide. The first is where you load yourself up like a spring, and as you unwind, you throw your shoulders out, simultaneously pushing out with your feet, and this makes you quickly rotate into the 180 degree position. Of course, the more detailed, it's not that simple. The second method is slower and it requires less movement from your shoulders and more movement from your feet. The first is, yeah, it'll be easy and all that good stuff, but when you're learning toe-side stand-up speed checks, you're going to have to unlearn some things. Your shoulders lead the spinning motion, and with toe-side speed checks, your shoulders don't do so much of the work, or rather they do work, but if you're in the habit of spinning or twisting your shoulders, you're going to have to unlearn some things. The second is quite similar to what you do for stand-up toe-side speed checks, and that's what I'm going to teach, and yeah, the skills will be transferable. So step 0.1 and step 0.2 are foot placement and weight distribution respectively. I've already talked about that in my things to do before you slide, your longboard guide, so check that out. But typically for toe sides, in terms of your weight, you're going to want to have about 70% of your weight on your front foot and about 30% of weight on your back foot, or yeah, 60-40, whatever feels comfortable for you. A key thing for toe sides is really digging your weight into your toes, or rather the balls of your foot, and this will prevent you from high siding and it'll give you a lot of confidence as a rider and as well a lot of control. So yeah, it's key to put weight on your toes, or rather on the balls of your feet. So step one, you're going to want to have quite a bit of speed. You're going to want to be going faster than jogging pace. You can learn this slide on a mellow hill. Just make sure you're able to push in fast enough. Also, the steeper the hill, the easier it'll be to get the board to break traction, and the easier it'll be to lean off the board as well. More on the leaning part later. Step 2, you're going to want to start doing the setup carve. The setup carve is pretty important and it naturally brings your wheels to that edge of traction where you need just a nudge to get them to slide. So yeah, you start the setup carve. You can also check out my guide to the setup carve here. When you get to this point of the setup curve, you start compressing. Now, compressing is just sinking into your board a little bit, and you do it in anticipation of the kickout / pushing the board out into the slide. Compression is basically just bending your knees and sinking into your board. For toe sides, I really like to lean in over my front foot and bend over my front leg, and yeah, just really put weight on the balls of my front foot and as well, of course, on the balls of my back foot as well. But yeah, key points, really leaning into my front foot, and with the images I'm going to show you, you can kind of see me doing that. Okay, so step 4, you're going to be decompressing and kicking out the board, as well as a few other things. I talk all about this. So yeah, when you get to the zenith of the setup carve, you start leaning up the hill, you start decompressing as well, then you kick the board out and allow your body to follow it around. Now, all the steps that I've just mentioned in step 4, or rather all the things, they all happen in quick succession or almost simultaneously sometimes. I'm going to be talking about them one after one in the next bit, but they all kind of happen at the same time, and in the videos I'm going to be showing you, they're going to be in slow motion, but you kind of see everything happening simultaneously. Step 4.1, leaning up the hill. With toe sides, leaning up the hill is something you do almost simultaneously with decompressing. You're also going to have to kind of figure out how much you want to lean up the hill on your own. How much you lean up the hill is determined by your setup, your trucks, your bushings, the wheels you're gonna use, the hill as well, how steep it is, all that good stuff. So it's gonna vary from person and from setup as well. So it's just kind of something you figure out. I've shared an image with you. This is an example, not necessarily an amount you should be leaning. Just kind of want to show you guys how much I do it. You can try it and see how it works for you. Step 4.2, now I'm going to be talking about how to decompress. Now, decompressing is simply coming out of the compression position where your knees are bent and extending yourself upwards, or rather just straightening yourself up. The trick with toe sides is you don't fully extend yourself and unbend your knees all the way. You want to keep your knees slightly bent. Keeping your knees slightly bent will help with balancing, but most importantly, it will also aid you in applying pressure and weight on your toes. Applying pressure and weight on your toes and being balanced on your toes is key to holding and floating out stand-up 180 toes comfortably. So yeah, this is very key. Not really extending all the way out, just kind of extending and then sort of floating there. Step 4.3, turning in with your shoulders. Now, how I do my toe side 180s is with my shoulders and widespread arms, they turn in just before I kick out the board. Key point, they don't control the slide. Now, as you know, with like Coleman slides and other slides, the shoulders do a lot of the movement and they allow you to really get the board to break traction. But no, in the toe side 180 slide, they do not control the slide. What my shoulders do is they rotate in slightly ahead of the kick out so that my upper body is in a good position to comfortably handle the rotation of the board. My upper body won't be in a fixed position though. It will naturally rotate slightly as the board comes around, or rather as the board rotates. But at the same time, at some point of the 180, the board is going to start rotating ahead of my upper body. Then I'll quickly have to bring in my upper body, which I do on compression just before I hook up the board. So in summary, 3 things happen. The shoulders turn in slightly before the kick out. My upper body kind of hangs in there, letting the board do its thing. And then I bring in my upper body on compression and hookup. Now, this explanation that I've given you is just a bit confusing, as I've also skipped ahead and explained a few other parts, but I think it's important to explain it that way so you guys can get a bigger picture of what the shoulders are doing. I think when you finally do try the toe side 180, it is going to all make sense, but yeah, when you finally have that real world feedback, it's going to make a bit more sense. But yeah, bear with me. Step 4.4, the kick out. Now the kick out is more of a firm push of your board rather than kicking it out. It's just an aggressive push. So as I said above, you're going to want to have 70% of your weight on your front foot and about 30% on your back foot. You push out with your back foot whilst keeping your front foot stiff and firm. Remember to have most of your weight on the balls of your feet or on your toes, whichever feels more natural for you. So you essentially want to push the board into the 180-degree direction, almost like you're pivoting on your front foot / truck. You also want to push outwards or forwards, but also down at the same time with your back foot. This will keep it planted and it will keep it from slipping off. I also find with toe sides, once I push with my feet, I just sort of hang in there. I don't really provide any more input. I just sort of hold the pressure and allow the board to continue its trajectory and kind of do its thing. So yeah, after the kick out, just rotate and hang in there and the board will naturally come around by itself. Okay, so some quick tips. You want to keep your weight on your toes. Number 2, don't unbend your knees and straighten out all the way when you decompress. Keep your knees bent a little bit. Number 3, take a video of what you're doing so that you can see the good and bad things that you are doing. Number 4, make sure you're set up carving. Number 5, stay on top of your board and don't let it get away from you. Sometimes the board can keep going and leave you behind, so you want to stay on top of it. Step 6, keep your weight on your toes and lean a moderate amount. You will not high side. Step 5, where to look. Now, when the board is rotating, when I'm in the slide, I simply look down at the ground or at my board. I don't really force myself to look down the hill or look anywhere. I just look wherever is natural for my head to be positioned. And the thing is, you kind of don't have to look at anything. I know it's scary, but just allow it to happen. Don't force yourself to look anywhere. If you force yourself to look anywhere, whether it's like left or right or like at your board or whatever, it's going to affect the positioning of your shoulders. Now, as I explained earlier, the positioning of your shoulders can affect how the board rotates in a slide. So yeah, just look where is natural and just allow your board to do the thing. You're just going to have blind faith that the board is rotating, and if you've done everything correctly, if you've set up carved correctly, if you've kicked out correctly, the board is going to do the thing. And yeah, you are going to get used to this, you're going to get a feel for this, but the first few times is going to be kind of blind faith. And yeah. Step 6, the hookup. Now I think this next step depends heavily on experience and feel. So the first few times is going to be guesswork, but once you get a feel for it, you're going to be very confident about it. I feel very confident about stand-up toes. Yeah, so as the board rotates and gets almost to that 180-degree angle, right, I like to give it a little nudge to push it into 180 degrees and make it regain traction. At this point of the nudge, I'm still maintaining pressure on my front foot and keeping it stiff as well. So that little nudge is going to make the board hook up. Now what we're going to be looking at is the recompression. So simultaneously as you're hooking up the board, you're going to want to bring your upper body in, because what happens is when you push the body into 180 degrees, your upper body is still going to be kind of facing up the hill. So you want to bring it in, and as you're bringing it in, you also want to compress. Now as you compress, the board will either hook up as you're compressing, or the board is going to hook up and then you compress. It's kind of weird, and I sometimes do it as the board hooks up or just after the board hooks up. It just kind of depends with what has happened, and it might vary for you. But yeah, compression is key to absorb the momentum of the 180-degree rotation, and it'll help keep you on board. So that's it. And if you do all these steps correctly, then yeah, you should have been able to pull off the 180-degree toe-side stand-up slide. So congrats. Okay, so step 7, now you're going to be riding in switch. You can either do a heel side switch slide to bring the board back, or do a toe side 180 slide to bring the board back. Whatever works for you. I like to do a heel side slide. My toe side, switch toe sides are pretty terrible, so can't help you guys there, unfortunately. But I am going to be working on them. I think there's some good guides out there. Blah, blah, blah. And I quickly want to highlight the importance of the compression, decompression, and then recompression, right? So they're really important. I talked more about them in my hillside stand-up 180 guide, but they just allow you to have very consistent kickouts at any speed and very consistent hookups as well. So I think they're really key, and I highly recommend you do them. And that's the end of the guide. I would really like it if you guys gave me feedback if you've tried this. Some of these guards are pretty hard to make, and as you know, I'm an experienced skater, so these things feel very natural for me. So your feedback, you telling me whether something I've done is right or wrong, helps me improve the guides and sees maybe where I'm going wrong. So yeah, I would appreciate some feedback from y'all. And yeah, big thanks as always to the subscribers. Y'all are pretty awesome. Big thanks as well to all the patrons. Couldn't do this without you guys. The quality of my videos has significantly improved because of you guys. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and take care.